This evening at today's 2 evening screenings here at Alice Tully Hall, we're marking the 60th anniversary of this festival. And we can think of no better way to mark that occasion than by the person I'm about to bring out, who will then bring someone else out. The man I'm about to introduce has a 25-year history with this festival and this organization. And he is one of the cornerstones upon which this festival has been built and grown. And it's because of him and a number of his colleagues over the years that we are all together to experience not only this film tonight, but this festival here in New York. Please join me in welcoming the Emeritus Director of the New York Film Festival, Mr. Richard Peña.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be up here, and thank you very much, Eugene, for that very generous introduction. The person I'm going to introduce you to is somebody who, in lots of ways, encapsulates this festival. When you think about it, he started out, just like all of you, sitting in the audience watching great films and taking in some of those experiences and eventually becoming one of the people who had films on our screens. Films such as Italian American, Mean Streets, After Hours, The Irishman. If there's anything about Martin Scorsese that for me totally, in a way, mirrors what I like to think the festival embodies, it's first an extraordinary respect for the history of cinema. I remember back in 1980 when he did this amazing presentation here about color preservation and how, in fact, we were losing our color films. And really, I often think the whole interest in film preservation on a national level, maybe even a global level, really began with that presentation. The respect that you see in all of his films when he brings in elements and influences from so many different places and makes them very much his own. The second is that Martin Scorsese is very much a filmmaker. Whatever film you'll see from Martin Scorsese uses the resources and the art of this medium to simply their fullest extent. It's always a pleasure to see one of his films, always a great pleasure to be in the same room with him. Please welcome Martin Scorsese.
Wow. Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you. So I've been, asked to say a few words about tonight being the 60th anniversary of the New York Film Festival. This place is, this festival really has been a home, a spiritual home for myself and other filmmakers around the world. The first festival, Richard Roud and Amos Vogel put that together. I remember opening the papers, 1963. So I was opening the papers and I see this lineup, films by Bresson and Buñuel and Melville and René and Olmi and Chris Marker and Polanski and Losi and, but I couldn't afford to go. So I couldn't see any of them. And the thing was, they had this great commercial, and it was also an image on the first program of the first New York Film Festival, and that was a film case, really heavy metal case, and film cans, and they had this beautiful black and white commercial where a guy was delivering this giant can of film and put it in a projector, and it, thread up the projector, and the light hit the screen, and it said, "This film be shown only once, and this is the place to see it. That's it." And in many cases, too, a lot of the films we were looking at here hadn't had distributors yet. So this was an important thing because maybe some distributor wouldn't pick it up. So you had to rush to get to see it that one time. I did make it here for the second year. And that's because I had a short film here from the student films, And that year, to be at the press screenings. Now, mind you, that wasn't Alice Tully Hall. That was what was then called Avery Fisher Hall. And the place was gigantic. And they said the projection wasn't very good, but I couldn't tell that it was fine for me. And the revelations at that festival for me, Pasolini, I saw for the first time. Miklos Janšos, the Roundup. The incredible Bellocchio is still making wonderful films. And that day, I'll never forget seeing Before the Revolution, Bernardo Bertolucci, and he was there. And I'll never forget him coming out on the promenade, buttoning his jacket, and everybody taking pictures of him. I was quite overwhelmed by that picture, and it was a great inspiration. And so each year, it was a place where you saw, let alone Jean-Luc Godard films, about 2 or 3 a year. They were always being screened. So each screening, each film was pretty much a revelation of pure narrative, I should say, how to tell a story with pictures. And from different aspects, all parts of the world. So in 1968, I did have a short film here in the actual full program, and that was called The Big Shave. And it was supposed to be shown with, I forget which film was going to be shown. And I was having dinner with my friend Jay Cox and his wife, Verna Bloom, and we're on 82nd Street, and we get a phone call. They're going to show it tonight. So what do you mean? They changed it. They're going to show with Godard's Weekend. I said, what, with Weekend? Are you mad? No, they're going to do it. You got to get over here and just stand in the back and watch, which is what we did. And it was great. The film was only 6 minutes, but halfway through, people started booing and hissing, and people were laughing. It was great. It was an incredible experience. We were all prepared. We're going to go the next night to see it. No, it was being shown then with Godard. I said, my God. So the next time was a year later, a few years later. What am I saying? A year is 73, the 11th New York Film Festival, and it was Mean Streets. And in Mean Streets, it was a film I had, was burning to make, took a number of years to pull it together. And there I was, my mother and father sitting here in Alice Tully Hall by that point. And the film comes up, and I realized, oh my God, people are going to see this. And it went very well. There were some people booing, but it was okay. There was only a few. And I went out to the lobby out there, and my mother and father were with me. And my mother went up to every person who was standing there, and she kept saying, I just want you to know we never use that word in the house. And she was right. We didn't, I was making a gutter vernacular film in a sense, and we were never allowed to use that language, any of those words. They were quite taken by it. It was quite a moment. And over the years I've been here, I've shown a few documentaries, Italian American Boy, 2 feature films. But really, a lot of the films have shown the restorations here of the Film Foundation and the World Cinema Project. That for me is a real joy, because part of the original, I don't know, we can go on for a while, but part of the original festival always had sidebars, and there was one sidebar in 1970. Visconti had just died. They showed all of his films. It was an extraordinary thing. The sidebars were remarkable. Or showing when Richard Roud put on Les Vampires, the Foulade series, and they cut out all the intertitles, and they just showed it with no intertitles. It didn't matter. I mean, there was no story anyway. It was a serial. So it was 5 hours, Napoleon, before it was really put together by Kevin Brownlow, was still working on it. It was a remarkable experience. The last time I was here, we did the opening night in 2019 of The Irishman. And At that time, Kent Jones was the head of the festival, and we would do little conversations sometimes with the Lincoln Center group here. And that time we decided to do a little conversation we started with a crazy clip from Hugo Haas films, and we took it down that road. That was the year he stepped down as the festival director to continue directing his own pictures, and Dennis Lim and Eugene Hernandez took over. Kent Jones had come back here to take the reins from Richard Peña when he stepped down in 2012, and Richard followed Richard Roud in 1988. You know, 6 extraordinary individuals. Amos Vogel, whom I'm proud to say I was a friend of, Richard Roud, Richard Peña, Kent Jones, and Eugene, who is now moving on to Sundance, and Dennis Lim. I have to say that these guys have been guardians of this great art form that just burned inside me, lit a fire inside me. And as I said before, this festival is a spiritual home for filmmakers and the art of cinema, particularly important now when cinema is devalued, demeaned, belittled from all sides. Not necessarily the business side, but certainly the art. And since the 80s, there's been, a focus on numbers. That is, and it's kind of repulsive. It's like, of course, the cost of a movie is one thing. We understand that a film costs a certain amount. They expect to at least get the amount back. Plus, I get it. But the emphasis is now on numbers, cost, the opening weekend. How much are made in USA, how much are made in England, how much are made in Asia, how much are made in the entire world, how many views it got. And as a filmmaker and as a person who can't imagine life without cinema, I've always find it really insulting. And I've always known that such considerations had no place at the New York Film Festival. And here's the key also with this. There are no awards here. Get it? You don't have to compete. You just have the love of cinema here. There's just cinema. Huh? So please keep it that way. I want to thank you and everybody. Happy 60th anniversary. I can't believe it's 60 years since I opened that newspaper. Okay. Apparently that's what they're telling me. So tonight's movie, we made this film, and I want to mention some names before we move on. It's called Personality Crisis for One Night Only. Okay, so you have all the crises you want for one night. All right. I want to thank Showtime, Vinny Malhotra, Imagine, Ronnie Howard, Brian Grazer, Justin Wilkes, Sarah Bernstein doing it, okay? And our filmmaking team, my co-director, David Tedeschi. Is he out here? Come on, David. Okay. David. Ellen Kuras, who shot it, she's in Budapest directing her own film right now. She sends her love. Margaret Bodie, who's producing. Come on out, Margaret. Randy Poster. Is Randy here somewhere? Not backstage. He's always in the theater. I know he's here. He's hiding. Okay. Randy, okay. Jack Douglas and Jay Messina, who produced and mixed the Cafe Carlyle tracks. And additionally, this footage we got from this great guy, it's great stuff this guy did, Bob Gruen. It was really fantastic. Also, Walker Lamond and Greg Whiteley and the great Harry Smith. Okay. The main thing here is, the main talent here is really David Johansen. And here he is. David Johansen, Mara Hennessy, and Leah Hennessy. Okay. What do you say? We show them the film or what? All right, we better show it. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
I'm so glad that Richard Peña didn't give away the entire plot of this movie.